Paltrocast now with Darren Paltrowitz. Get ready to listen to your favorite artists.
Paltrocast.
On the record here, Mickey, aside from having to talk to this guy, how's your day going so far?
No complaints. I walked the dog, and it's a beautiful day in LA. I am very happy.
When did you move to Los Angeles? Because a lot of the bios still say New York.
I moved to Los Angeles about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Got it.
Wow, passed in a minute.
Yeah, so I obviously knew you from a past life, pre-Pitch for Perfect, which everyone in the world has seen, of course, and the sequels and so forth. But your career has always fascinated me in that your interviews were very fact-driven, yet personality-driven at the same time. But now you're a director, an Oscar shortlisted director. Okay. Did you know all along you wanted to be a director, or is this just a fluke? Because I know this is the second short you've directed.
It's the second short, but it's really the other one was a doc short that I did with a friend. This is my directorial debut. God, this business is so hard. It's hard and it's heartbreaking. I'd been lucky enough to sell some projects and that got so close to being made and then fell apart. And every time it happens, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You're just like, you can feel it. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to be on set and we're going to make this thing. I was really tired of getting my heart broken, and I was really tired of waiting for someone to say yes. And I just thought, I'm going to direct a short. I'm going to make this thing. And I'm not going to wait for someone in office to say yes. And I'm going to decide what it's worth, and I'm going to go out and make it. And it was just a beautiful experience. It was also, we were still in the pandemic. I mean, we had a COVID officer, all that. We had all collectively spent so much time alone.
Yeah.
And I was just so happy to be on a set with artists collaborating and making something together. It was just like, I had such a great experience making this short, and I would love to do it again.
It's fantastic to see things come full circle, and that GQ.com is where you can see it for free for a certain limited number of days. So that means when Mickey Rapkin leaves employment, he leaves on good terms always.
It's funny. There's very few people there that I worked there 12 years ago. It's been a long time. But I just reached, when we were trying to get promotion, we were trying to promote the short, I just sent it around to editors that I knew. And this guy at GQ who I'd worked with, I wrote a story for him at Billboard. Anyway, it's like, he's like, I have a great writer in mind to write about this. This woman, Sarah Seltzer, she was great. And we just had such a lovely conversation about the movie. And then when we were kind of starting our Oscar, it's like, I'm like, even as I'm talking to you about it, when I'm saying, like, when we started our Oscar campaign, like, I'm still like, the whole thing is just so wild. But anyway, they were kind enough to post the short for a limited time alongside the original interview we did.
Great cast. You don't need me to tell you that. Ari, I loved her work from I'm Dying Up Here, playing the comedian from Week, Texas.
Ari Grainer, she's an amazing actress.
Who is the first person that came on board from the cast that we see on screen?
The first person was Jason Butler Harner, who runs the meeting, and he was on Ozark and Handmaid's Tale and all these things. One of my favorite actors, who also happens to be my husband.
Right.
So he had to do it. And then we built the cast out from there. I'd known Ari for years through Jason, sent it to her. It's nerve-wracking sending your work to anybody, you know? And then to someone like Ari, whose work I've admired for so many years, who was so great in Mrs. America on FX. I just love Ari. Anyway, I sent it to her and she was like, oh, she read it. She's like, I'll totally do this. She was like, she was going to be in LA shooting Winning Time. So she was already going to be here. She's like, I will totally do this. And then we kind of built the cast out from there. But it's like Chris Perfetti from Abbott Elementary. Like the pieces fell into place. These actors are so phenomenal.
Right. The site that I was able to stream it from first, the internal industry site, a little site called Vimeo, it says posted 8 months ago. How long ago did you actually finish?
We shot the movie December of 2022. And then in January 23, immediately went into, post, like editing the film, color correcting. I mean, all this stuff, it takes a good amount of time. And then we started applying to festivals. So we had our premiere at LA Shorts in July. That was the first time anybody saw it. And it's been a kind of whirlwind since then.
A lot of times when people write the screenplay or write the story, they go, yeah, but I'm not going to direct it. Did you know outright that you wanted to direct it too?
Yes. I was, like I said before, I was just tired of, sometimes you write a script and you're excited about it. And if you're lucky, other people are excited about it. And then you need a director and they're sending it out and you're waiting. And I just was like, I don't want to wait anymore. I can't sit here. Look, I'm 46 years old and I have a debut short. I'm just tired of not only just waiting for other people to say yes. I'm tired of that feeling where you're putting your worth in the hands of these decision makers. And I just couldn't do it anymore. And I set about, raising the money and putting the cast together. And it's even though it's a short that's 15 minutes long, you still need to hire every job that you have on a big movie. You still need a DP and catering and all of it. So I'm just, Ari actually gave me the best compliment. I was so nervous on the first day, and Ari said, she's like, I just want you to know this feels like every set I've ever been on, and she's like, the food is actually better. So it just, gave me some confidence to do it.
I can imagine. So you called out before the number of projects. You didn't specifically say, it was 8 projects, but that there's been multiple projects that were stop and go and ultimately didn't happen. And one of my favorite things, it's the misery of the creators, but hilarious to me, is when you find out how many pilots people didn't have picked up. Hence when you watch Dave Chappelle's things, like Chappelle's show, he used to have the Pilot Boy Productions where he's shackled in the production slate because he had dozens of shows that didn't happen. He had a Home Improvement spinoff that didn't really go the way it should have. Dana Carvey, like all these people that really inspired me, had so many things that didn't happen. In your case, around how many things didn't happen? 5, 10?
I mean, there were a bunch, but there was one in particular that most of them, like I've sold pilots before but they never get made. Like selling the thing was a win for me. If I'd actually made the pilot, like my head would have exploded. But I got really close on a TV show that I was working on where it was set up at a big place, and we were making offers to lead actresses, and we had a Zoom with a couple of actresses, like heroes of mine. And the pandemic, it just fell apart,
Yeah.
But it was the first time I was really like, I could feel it. Like in my mind, I was like, we're going to be on location. We're going to be making this together. It felt so real. I wouldn't trade the heartbreak. I'm a sensitive person. I'm a creative person. I think my writing comes from being an empathetic person. So it's not like I can't be a robot about it. I don't want to shut off that part of me that gets hurt, because I think it's an asset in some other situations, but it's brutal.
I can only imagine. Yeah. But knowing how slow things go, with directing and films and all that. Are you thinking 2 or 3 projects ahead? So in other words, you know what your next year or 2 look like?
No, I mean, I should be so lucky to know what I'm doing in 2 days. But I know I have a feature film that I wrote that I would really like to direct this year. I have a TV idea that I'm working on based on an article that I wrote. I have things that I'm working on, but I wish I could say in 5 months I'll be on set of a feature that I'm directing. Like that would be a dream. But I'm hoping that this year, we can put these pieces together and I can make something again.
So it sounds like the creativity is not anywhere near the top 5 hardest parts for you these days.
I mean, no, the creative part I love. Raising money, I do not love.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just, I'm so excited. I can't believe that we made this short list for the best live action short. We've been having a bunch of screenings and I still sit in the back of the theater and love to hear people laughing. I just can't believe, I feel so great to be out there with something that I made with people I love, that people are enjoying. It's been wild.
That's a unique trait. A lot of directors don't like to watch their stuff any more than they have to. Like if you think
it's only 15 minutes, but
imagine, the comparative point here. If you're a pop singer and you have to film the music video, it's you lip syncing to the same song hundreds of times. So you probably never want to hear that song anymore ever again, forgetting the fact that this was to promote it. So you now do a world tour around it. In your case, sitting in the editing room and all that, I can't imagine wanting to watch it. I don't want to read my book again. Like I already did that once.
Sometimes I read old things that I wrote, and I have I'm like, who's the person who wrote this? Like, where did it? I have no where it come from. It feels like an entirely different person made this thing. But no, the film, I'm still like, I love to hear people laughing at it, and I love to hear people laughing with Jason, and just I love that it's a really special cast. We had a really it was just a really beautiful experience, and I hope I never get tired of hearing people laugh about it and then get quiet and emotional and talk about it after. And it's yeah.
Well, the film couldn't be more relevant and topical now than ever due to the sad state of the world and all that. Mm-hmm. And you, like myself, grew up in a largely Jewish community. May or may not have been the same high school in the same town. Maybe not. We can't confirm nor deny. But growing up in the town that you did, most of the people were kind of striving to be doctors, lawyers. It wasn't a creativity-oriented kind of school. Yet after you graduated, since you graduated, there have been people who wrote for late night television and sold movies, etc. Who was the first person from childhood that you looked at and went, oh, they made it in entertainment or journalism? I can too. Was there such a thing?
There wasn't really. I'm sure they existed. But there wasn't like one. But then a friend from high school, a couple years behind me, who I did like school plays with and stuff and sang with in choir, Eric Legend, he's like sold 1 million shows and things. Yeah. And I'll run into him once a year, every 2 years somewhere in LA. And it always makes me happy. You know how it is. Like that person to you is still, 17. Like,
to rudely interrupt you, yeah. I was with a band that was on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and I saw Eric going down the hallways, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember me, but. Yeah. And then since then, he's gotten about 10 times more prominent.
It's amazing to me. It makes me so happy. Yeah, but there's not like one that stands out that made me feel like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. It was more just I don't know, being stubborn, or I don't know.
Was there ever a plan B for you if you didn't make it as a journalist?
Oh, was there a plan B? Not necessarily. Yeah, I mean, I was a full-time journalist in New York, first at Details magazine and then at GQ, for 10 years or so. And then I took a chance to quit and go freelance full-time. I wasn't thinking about the Hollywood part of it. I was just like, I don't want to be in an office anymore. I want to be writing more. I was just like, I'm going to take a chance and do this. I'd written a couple books at that point. I was like, I'm going to take a chance and do it now or I'll regret it. And then I went to the set of Pitch Perfect 1, so I wrote the book Pitch Perfect that they based the films on. So
can we do an air quote on the based?
Sure. Yeah.
they based it.
But I went to set, it's a miracle when something like this happens and they fly you down to the set and, you're there and you're like, it's amazing. It was shocking. And I was it was just an amazing experience. And I thought, okay, if a book of mine ever gets optioned again, like maybe I can write the script. I had never done it before. I sat down, I wrote a romantic comedy, sort of loosely inspired by some part of my life. And I loved working on it. I was like, I just loved it, and I sent it to a friend in LA, a manager who I used to work at the GQ, Chris Houvain, a great, dearly departed person, but a hugely influential person in my life. And he liked it enough to share it with people at Management 360, the company where I was working, and I signed with them and kind of went from there. But I just, it was fun to work on. Like the creative writing was I found it to be thrilling and fun and challenging and annoying. And I want to throw my computer in the street, all of those things. But it kind of lit a fire. I was like, oh, I like this and I want to do this. I want to try to do this. So that was part of moving to LA. And I continue to be a freelance journalist still to this day. But yeah, trying to do both. Yeah.
So the biggest takeaways, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong here, to sum up what I've learned today about you, the author of an Oscar shortlisted nominee at the moment, which I think it's going to take the award, but what do I know? What we've learned is that it was made, a year-ish ago in the midst of COVID. Some great friends came to the table and made it happen. The catering was really good on the set. So in the future, if you're working on a film, the food has to be good or you've already peaked. We know that the whole time, whether or not your IMDb shows it, you have been writing and or selling stuff. We know that you're pretty easy to work with at this point in time. And more or less, we won't know what you're working on until it's officially announced over and over and over again.
Let's hope. I think that's a good summary. Shout out to Monday's Catering. Yeah, fingers crossed. And I just should also say to people like Noam Dromi, our producer at Reboot Studios, and Jane Oster-Sinisi, who believed in this story and that it was okay to make an escape room joke in a movie about Anne Frank, and that there was a larger point to this film, which is that we need to keep telling the story again and again and again everywhere we can, or it's going to happen again.
Paltrocast.
Robert, thank you for taking the time. An honor and a pleasure. How's your day going aside from answering the same questions over and over and over again?
Well, you're first up, so this is going to be the freshest one.
Score. Well, The Night They Came Home, the new movie, obviously not your first Western because you got your start in Westerns. So how much research or prep did you have to do for this role?
Well, not a whole lot because the role is very, very well defined. I'm the guy that has the still that makes the liquor for the region that we're living in. And so if anybody wants a bottle, they come to me.
What was your gateway into this particular project? Because obviously you're a veteran actor, Danny is, Brian is, etc. But was it you knew a particular producer and they went, Robert's the guy?
Yes, absolutely. It's Patrick Durham.
Got it.
Durham, Patrick Durham.
Like the city. Well,
Yeah.
in this case, easy film for you to make, easier project in terms of the prep and the onset.
Well, the prep is pretty easy, but the conditions on the location were a little rough. I mean, we were out in the sticks, and it was dusty and it was hot, and yeah, it was one of those locations where you were ready for it to be over. I mean, not the work, but just the environment.
Right. Had this been your first time working alongside Danny Trejo?
Yes, it is, and I wish I'd have been in a scene with him because I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, he proves the point that the meaner the character, the nicer the human being in real life.
Exactly.
But then I don't want to do the opposite on you because you generally play nice characters and you're not known to be a monster.
No, I'm not. I did actually. I was a monster in one of my early movies called Blackout, and I was terrorizing the city. And there's a little old lady, and I unplugged her from her life support system. I mean, I was a little bitch.
It happens, but if I could talk about how intriguing your career is to me, I think I'm like a lot of people where Revenge of the Nerds is the first time I knew that it was you, and then started following you from there on. But you're a musician. You know, I've watched the musician related videos of you playing with your family. I know Wavelength was a movie where you got to play your own music alongside Sherry. Or do you say Cherie or Sherry?
Cherie Curry.
She follows me on Twitter. She's probably going to be mad at me for saying her name wrong. But the key is, when did you realize, hey, I'm more of an actor than a musician, knowing that you still play all these years later?
Well, the acting was a means to an end. And, you know, the music doesn't pay. And I needed to survive. Right now, I've been touring with a famous old folk singer called Ramblin' Jack Elliott.
Yes.
We've been playing around. We recently played Brooklyn. We played Santa Cruz. We played Pappy and Harriet's down in Joshua Tree. I mean, we go all over the place. He's 92.
Pappy and Harriet, sorry to rudely interrupt you there. I mean, that's been the site of gigs by Roger Waters and McCartney. Well, and you.
Yeah, and me. That's funny, man.
Well, were you on the Sunset Strip in terms of gigging?
Well, I played the Troubadour. I also played the Whiskey, but that's about it. One night each. Oh no, I also played the Ash Grove on Melrose.
Okay, so you were at the hot spots of the time. Is there ever a point where, hey, this guy's a hot actor, let's give him a record deal like everyone else had, including Brian Austin Green?
No, I don't lump myself into that category of actors who make music. I like to think I'm a musician. I've done a lot of studio work, and I don't want it to seem like, you know, after my acting career got going, oh, I think I'll be a musician now. I don't know. That's not me.
You never know when Dennis Quaid and the Sharks are going to pop up at a casino near you. And I know you're playing with Rambling Jack Elliott. You're not that kind of person. You're a craft-oriented person who plays acoustic, aka somebody who can't hide behind the effects pedals and all that. So is there anything else happening on the music front besides the Rambling Jack stuff you're doing right now?
No, that's it. Well, no, actually, I've got a really good friend of mine, Richard Gabai, and he has a band called The Czechs, and he lets me sit in with him.
Cool. So there's that. Then there's the night that they came home. Are we allowed to know what film is next from you?
Yeah, sure. It's called, I have to think about this for a second. Cowboy Killer, a love story.
Now, is it a misleading title or is it another Western-oriented film?
It's a misleading title. Though the star of the film is a cowboy. And he's also a killer. Hence the title.
Are you that killer by any chance?
No, the killer is being played by Darby Hinton. I play a detective.
Fantastic. And
yeah,
then,
I'm excited about it.
So in other words, IMDb is not the end all in terms of your credits and what you have coming up.
Well, the funny thing is that they got a couple of projects that are in pre-production that I've never even heard of. So I don't know. Maybe they do that to generate financing.
And then at this point in your career, you were also really in demand when it comes to Comic-Cons and those kinds of appearances. When did you start to notice that your past was a good thing in that way, and that there were all these fans who did want to meet you?
Well, I think the first time I did the Hollywood show in Burbank, and I did really well. And I thought, maybe I should keep doing this. So I've been all over the country.
Yeah, it's this multifaceted career where sometimes you're on camera, sometimes you're behind the camera, sometimes you're playing, sometimes you're at the autograph show. In other words, it's not like, hey, 1 or 2 movies a year and then I sit on my ass.
No, I keep busy.
Exactly. So are there any projects or causes that I've missed? Because I think it was wonderful what you put out into the world during the strike about residuals and how a lot of people have it wrong about actors.
Yeah, did you know that $0, 0 cent residual check that I posted had 21 million views?
You accidentally went viral on not making money.
Yes, exactly. And I wish I could have figured out how to monetize that.
Well, you have plenty of time to figure that one out. But the bottom line is this. Thank you for the many years of great art. Hope to see you live in the near future. I didn't know about that Brooklyn gig here in New York. So looking forward to the next thing. And what's the best way for people to stay on top of the latest and greatest from Robert Carradine?
You can go to my Instagram, which is the Robert Carradine.
Got it.
I post.
And then is there progeny social media accounts that we should be following as well?
Yes, Ever Carradine Official. That's my daughter.
Paltrocast.
Okay. Well, how is your day going aside from asking, and answering questions from the same people about the same things? Good day otherwise?
It's nice. Yeah, we just got 2 feet of snow up here in Maine, and I'm building 2 houses, and I'm running back and forth between each job site, babysitting a bunch of guys that stand around and smoke cigarettes all day. So it's a good day. Yeah.
The last time I had the pleasure of interviewing you, before we go into all the impact stuff, I learned about the Joe Gomez real estate empire.
Joe Gomez. Oh, yes. Joe Gomez.
That you've been part of. So you go between Maine and Florida regularly, or are you fully back in Maine now?
I sold my properties in Tampa because I met my fiance up here in Maine, and I invested those earnings into different buildings up here. But once Mama and I are expecting a child, we are going to develop a house north of Tampa probably and end up setting up shop down there because the snow is just not doing it. It ain't it up here, man.
Well, congratulations in advance. Congrats on your recent marriage, etc. But we're here to talk about how you're still one of the top people in wrestling and TNA is back, etc. So Hard to Kill, you have a big match with PCO. What should we expect? Just a quick victory from you?
What you should expect is me be limping, probably going to limp out of Vegas, catching my red eye back to Boston because PCO, I've been asked this a few times over the last week. I forgot to go. How do you come up with a plan for a guy like that? So luckily I've got Alpha Bravo and Oleg ringside. So hopefully it become a numbers game and, pray for me.
Paltrocast.